Moving on to how to automate your acceptable use policy enforcement, we're going to get started with a different trigger. This is the Google directory trigger. There's different events that you can choose from. In this case, we're going to start the flow whenever a new user is created. This is going to ensure that as soon as someone is onboarded, we can kickstart this process. Here I'm using the find user action. This is going to allow me to see information like, for example, their name, their manager's information. So this is great in case you want to use any of that information in emails, for example. I have also gone ahead and created the Zenphi table. We're going to be using it to be able to store what status the different employees are in, if they've already responded, if we're waiting for them to respond. So in the next step, I'm going to be adding them to that Zenphi table using the create record action. And now for this specific use case, we're giving them 3 weeks to be able to respond to the form. So I am using the add time to date time action. This is going to allow us to be able to add 21 days to the time when the flow started. And now to actually send them the form to be able to look over and accept, we're going to use the request data action. You're able to build a form here. As you can see, they're able to select that they have read and confirm knowledge of the policy. And you're also able to configure reminders. So we want to make sure they respond. So we're sending quite a few reminders, 6 to be exact. You can also choose when you want it to expire. Down at the bottom, in this case after 21 days. Feel free to update the initial email, the reminder email, just to make sure they're getting that information. Now, since I used the previous action, I do have access to the last day that they have to be able to respond, which is a reason why I recommend adding that action in case you want to use it in your emails. And now, depending on if they responded in time or not, we're going to take different actions since we want to make sure that we're staying as compliant as possible. So if they didn't respond in time, we're going to be adding them to an OU that I have previously created. To add them to the OU, we're going to use the update user action. Now within OUs, you're able to limit access to, for example, Drive, Gmail, Google Docs, so you can limit as much access as you want from your Google admin panel. This will ensure that whoever is added to this OU has that restricted access, but you're still able to remove them if needed after they respond to the task. Then I would go ahead and update the status in the table to access limited, and we're going to go ahead and notify the user. So just a regular email, feel free to add any information from the previous steps here. However, if they did respond, we're going to make sure we add a year to their current response time, which would be the next date where we need to go ahead and send the policy once again. So we're going to use the add time to date time action again, add a year to the submitted time, update the status, but this time we'll change it to responded, and update the next review date, and notify the user. And just like that, we have made sure that anyone who hasn't responded to the form within the 21-day period has that restricted access, making sure your business stays as compliant as possible.